Hi guys, welcome back to the Curly Reader. My name's Amanda, and this weekend I'm going to be reading some Pam Muñoz Ryan. So I have read 3 different books by Pam Muñoz Ryan. I've read Echo, Esperanza Rising, and The Dreamer, and absolutely loved every single one of them. So I thought I would take this weekend during middle grade March to read the remainder of her middle grade books that I haven't read yet. I was going to say backlist, but one of them's a new release. So anyway, so I have 2 books that I own. I have Becoming Naomi León and Writing Freedom. And then there are 2 books that I have on audiobook from my library. And those are Paint the Wind, I think, and Mañana Land. Sorry, I way mispronounced that. Mañana Land, which is her new release. So I have these 4 books that I'm going to try to get through in the next 3 days. Today's Friday, and I'm going to just give myself this weekend to read as much Pam Muñoz Ryan as possible. I'm really looking forward to it. I don't know what any of these books are about. I haven't done any research into any of them. I know Writing Freedom and Paint the Wind both are horse stories. They're very short, and I think these were her first 2 middle grade books. But other than that, I don't really know what Becoming Naomi León or Mañana Land are about. So it'll definitely be interesting to see kind of what her stories are about. They typically have something to do with Hispanic culture and a little bit of historical fiction. Definitely a lot of cultural references in there. So as I'm getting started, this Becoming Naomi León is going to be my physical book that I'm going to try to read this weekend. This is the only one that I can't find an audiobook for. The other 3 Pam Muñoz Ryan books that I have already read, I listened to the audiobook for every single one of them and absolutely loved the audiobook. So I'm kind of bummed that I can't listen to this one on audiobook, but that's okay. I'm just going to read this one physically and I own it, so it's not a big deal. And then the other 3 I will be listening to on audiobook. I was able to get them from my library on audio. And so yeah, that's the game plan. So I will be starting Becoming Naomi León today, and then I will probably start Writing Freedom or Paint the Wind, whichever one was released first, and knock out the really short ones first, and then I will listen to Mañana Land. So I have some errands to run today, and I will probably start listening to the audiobooks while I'm out and about, but I will touch base back with you when I have an update. All right, guys, so it is now Friday afternoon. I just got home from running all of my errands, and I was able to finish the audiobook of Writing Freedom. I loved this. This, just like The Dreamer, was based off of a true story, and I did not know that until the end notes of the book. So this is based off of the true story of Charlie, I gotta remember what her name was now. Charlie something Parker, I think was her last name, Parkhurst. Charlie Darky Parkhurst, who was the first woman to vote in the United States, and she voted in like the the first to vote in 1868 was when she first voted, and she voted because she was disguised as a man her whole life. So she was raised in an orphanage and then became a stagehand for some stagecoaches, and because women couldn't work and do things like that, she started disguising herself as a boy from a very young age, and then eventually moved out west during the gold rush and all of that, and voted in 1868 and was the first woman in the United States to vote. So anyway, and it just follows her life from her time in the orphanage and kind of growing up there, and then how she ended up out west and what she did, her work with the horses. It was really interesting learning about some of the stagecoach things like that I don't really know a whole lot about. Like I said, very short book. It wasn't super in-depth, but it was just interesting, and I thought it was really well done for young readers. In the author's note, Pam Muñoz Ryan says that her, like, in real life, she would have been like 55 when she voted, but for the sake of the story, she decided to condense it down and to showcase a limited, like, stretch of her life, you know, to accommodate young readers. So anyway, very interesting. There's a lot of research about this woman's life, I guess. It's just, I don't know. And they didn't find out until after she died that she was a woman. most people. So like most people didn't even know that she was a woman. So anyway, really, really like this. 4 stars, 4.5 stars. It wasn't quite 5 stars, but I loved it. I mean, who's surprised? So I'm going to keep reading Becoming Naomi León, and I'm going to move on. The next audiobook I'm going to listen to is Paint the Wind, which is another horse story. So we'll see how that one goes compared to this one. But anyway, I will check in with you when I have another update. Hey guys, so it is now Sunday afternoon. I have not updated you like as often as I would have hoped. But I do have a little bit of an update for you. So first of all, I have been reading Becoming Naomi León. I am loving this. I'm halfway through it right now. I'm planning on finishing it today. Loving this so much. This is about Naomi and her brother Owen. Owen has some physical disabilities, and they live with their grandmother after their mother left them 7 years ago. She just up and left them with their great-grandmother, and she has been taking care of them. And then one day their mom just shows up, and it has to do with the fallout of that. And so I'm really, really loving this. One of the things that I'm really liking in it is that each of the chapter names, I'm trying to see if I can find one. So each of the chapter names is like a shiver of sharks. So it's like the name of a grouping of animals. It's just so much fun. So one is a leap of leopards. One is an unkindness of crows, I believe is that one. Or ravens. An unkindness of ravens. A burden of mules. They're just fun. A charm of hummingbirds. And then each of the animals like that is referenced in the chapter heading is, or that the chapter heading is referenced just very like small reference in that chapter. And so it's just kind of fun. But I'm really, really, really liking this. And like I said, hoping to finish it today. Yesterday, I finished the audiobook of Paint the Wind, and it wasn't my favorite Pam Muñoz Ryan that I've read. I enjoyed it. It's a 3-star read for me. It had to do, sorry, I'm shaking a lot. My hand is shaking. But it had to do with wild horses out in Wyoming. And some of the chapters were from the point of view of the horses, and some were from the point of view of the main character, Maya. And it had a lot to do with horses and the wild horses and rounding them up and just watching them and letting them be free and kind of that whole narrative. It wasn't, like I said, my favorite. I'm not I'm not an animal person in general. Definitely not really a horse person. So I just didn't really care that much about it. But I think if you're into horses, you would love it. It was well written. But like I said, just not my favorite one that I've read of hers, but you're always going to have one that just isn't your favorite. I've loved every single other thing I've ever read from her, so I'm not going to falter on having one miss in my own opinion. So anyway, the game plan today is to finish Becoming Naomi León and then listen to the audiobook of Mañana Land, which I also have out for my library. So hopefully I will be able to get both of those done today. If not, this might go into tomorrow morning because I definitely want to get both of these done. But yeah, so that's the game plan for the rest of the day, and I will check in with you when I have another update. All right, guys, so it's been a while. As I'm sure everybody around the world knows, this past weekend, crap just hit the fan, and the last thing I was concerned with was filming video clips. So I did finish my reading. I just never checked in with my camera to let you guys know about it. So I finished Becoming Naomi León, and I loved this book so much. This to me felt so much like Esperanza Rising, even though Esperanza Rising is more of historical fiction and this is more set in current day. Take my bookmark out. This is about Naomi León, outlaw, who lives with her great-grandmother, and her brother live with her great-grandmother. Her little brother has special needs, and one day her mom just shows up. She's been living with her great-grandmother for 7 years. She hasn't seen her parents in 7 years. They are divorced, and then her mom just shows up out of the blue, and it is about kind of the journey of her life after that point. Part of this book takes place in Mexico. It was so good. 5 stars. I just loved it so much. One of the things I think I said in a previous clip that I liked about this was the chapter headers. They're just so fun. It was always like a collective noun with an animal group. So like this one is a burden of mules, and there's a shiver of sharks and a dray of squirrels. And so it was just fun. And then each of the animals that was mentioned in the chapter header was like very, very slightly mentioned in the chapter. And so it was just really fun. Another thing that I've really grown, or I've really realized about Pam Muñoz Ryan's work, is that she tends to focus in on very specific occupations or hobbies. So in this book, Naomi is a soap carver. She likes to carve soap into different objects. So you've heard of like people who carve wood. Well, she carves bars of soap into different, typically animal shapes. And it's like a family thing that her family does. And it was just really fun learning about that. And part of this book takes place, like I said, in Mexico, in Oaxaca, I think is how you pronounce it, Mexico, and it centers around the festival, I think it was, or the Night of the Radishes, and it's this like radish carving festival that takes place in Oaxaca, and it was just really fun. It was just very, very unique. One of the other things that I liked about this is that Naomi is half Mexican, but she doesn't know Spanish, and so when they are talking in Spanish, or when Spanish words are brought up, a lot of times there is a pronunciation part of it where somebody in the book will say, this is how you pronounce it. It's pronounced like this. And I just thought that that was such a neat aspect to add to this. And overall, like I said, absolutely loved it, 5 stars. So I also finished Mañana Land. I listened to the audiobook of that. It was not my favorite. It was good. It was not my favorite. It follows this little boy, Maximiliano, and he is a soccer player, and his family is very overprotective of him. His mom's not in the picture, which is kind of a common theme in a lot of Pam Muñoz Ryan's work, is that mom is not in the picture, or dad is not in the picture. There's always like a parent missing somewhere. But it kind of centers around this fictional city where there's this like rundown castle tower that has a lot of myth and legend surrounding it, and he finds out that his family is involved in that somehow, and it's just kind of about his exploration towards hope and what tomorrow brings, hence the name Mañana Land, because mañana means tomorrow in Spanish. So there's definitely underlying themes in this book. But yeah, like I said, just not my all-time favorite, but I still enjoyed it. So I figured I would rank all of Pam Muñoz Ryan's middle grade works in order of my enjoyment from lowest to highest. So yeah, starting at the bottom, I think my least favorite is probably Paint the Wind. This was just centered around wild horses. That's not really a huge like interest of mine. I think if you were into that, you would probably enjoy this a lot more than I personally did. So yeah, so that was probably my least favorite. And then after that is probably Mañana Land. And then those were the two that I don't have in front of me. So, and then after that is probably, let's go with Riding Freedom, even though I really, like the rest of these, I really, really enjoyed all the rest of these. So probably Riding Freedom. And then we'll go with The Dreamer, which is, I love all of these books, so it's hard to rank them. And then probably is Esperanza Rising. And then we'll go with Becoming Naomi León. And then Echo, it will always be my favorite because this book is just so good. So anyway, that is kind of my summary of reading Pam Muñoz Ryan for the weekend. It did, like I said, go over into Monday. I just never updated. And I'm hoping to get back on track of recording more frequently. Like I said, as everybody knows, the world is kind of in upheaval right now. My kids are home pretty much indefinitely at this point. And so, which is not a big deal. I'm at home anyway, so we got off really easy on that aspect. So my kids being home is not a huge deal. It just kind of throws off my process and my schedule a little bit, but in the grand scheme of things, no big deal. And it also, this whole thing has just kind of thrown off my reading a little bit. I've turned completely from all of my reading plans have gone to the wayside, and I'm just mood reading at this point. The good news is all of my library holds have been extended until the end of May, and so I have plenty of time to read every single middle grade book that I checked out from my library. So I think I'm just going to take middle grade March into April and just keep reading. This on my TBR cart is all middle grade, and so I'm just going to read everything on that cart until I'm done reading it. And then we'll go from there. So anyway, that has nothing to do with Pam Muñoz Ryan. So I hope that you enjoyed this. If you have read any of these books, I would love to hear your opinions about them. If you have never read Pam Muñoz Ryan, what are you doing? Go read some of her books. They are brilliant. And yeah, other than that, I hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope that you stick around and subscribe. And until next time, see ya.